Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Very excited because the topic today, but also my new little filming space is set up, and I have been wanting this for quite a while to have, a blank, mostly blank wall to do some filming on, so this is exciting. This week's video is on waste reduction because the last week of October is always waste reduction week. And I made a PDF last year about little easy tips to reduce your waste. So I've come up with some different ideas, and I'm hoping that you can do some of them. The Instagram post that I did yesterday the quote was, it's better, we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And especially with climate change and everything that's going on now, people are home a lot more, and therefore they're buying more things and producing more waste, less carbon emissions from cars and transportation and planes, but more garbage. So I have some ideas for you in case you are looking for something else to try or want to reduce your carbon footprint in any way. Buying plastic wrapped food at the grocery store, whether this is pre-packaged or just food that comes in plastic, this is usually meat, sometimes fruit if it's cling wrapped, but you can get reusable produce bags, and they're usually made of canvas. I've even seen some that are kind of woven together, and those work really well for produce, as long as you're not buying, like little clementines that'll fall out. But those work quite well. Cooking from scratch is, I guess with more people home, this is more common than normal, but cooking from scratch, you make sure that you use all the ingredients in your fridge. So it's not even about buying more food, it's about using what you already have. So one of the things that I like to do here, just before garbage day, take all the vegetables out of the fridge, and anything that's going bad, toss it in a stir fry with some noodles and some tofu, and there's a meal right there. And as a family right now, we have 3 people living here. As of Thursday, it'll be 4, and Kaya, obviously. But the rest of my family doesn't really meal prep, meaning prepare food at the beginning of the week and then eat that week just what they've prepared, and allocate specific food towards meals, plan it all out ahead of time. We kind of just eat what's in the cupboard, and there's always more food in the cupboard, so we're very fortunate in that way. But I'm going to try to reduce our food waste here, and I'm hoping that my family will jump on board with that. Don't buy single-use items is a really easy one. This includes mugs, water bottles, plastic utensils, straws, all of that kind of stuff. Single-use items can even be Ziploc bags if you don't reuse them. Tupperware works really well as long as you use it until it falls apart or gets ruined. We use glass Tupperware, and it lasts a lot longer, which is really helpful. I tend to I have little canvas drawstring bags sometimes that I use for dry snacks like almonds or something like that, rather than using plastic bags, just because once they're used and they have stain on the inside, most people wouldn't wash them and then reuse them, they just throw them out. Buying quality over quantity. So investing in really good items instead of buying cheap replacements. So even something like you need a new pair of socks, or all of your socks have holes and you want to get new ones. Invest in 3 good pairs instead of the really cheap 12 packs of socks that will last you a month, and then they're not, you're just throwing them out and buying something else. if you invest in quality items, you use a lot less. I think clothes is the biggest category for this because fast fashion is a really big deal. With trends changing all the time, people are much more likely to go to a store where a shirt costs, $5 to $10 rather than investing in, a nice sweater that's $50 because they'll get more the same amount of wear out of both of them. The cheap clothes are easier because you can just replace them if you outgrow them or don't like them anymore, instead of finding something you really love and getting that instead. Buy food in bulk is an easy one. A lot of people with Costco love to go there and buy a lot of food, and they freeze some of it and then they eat it later, which is really smart. But buying a lot of typical bulk items can be bought at places like Bulk Barn, any other, obviously COVID makes things different. But for example, I buy my oats for oatmeal and cookies at Bulk Barn. I buy Kaya's bones at Bulk Barn. Anything that I eat a lot of, I tend to prefer to buy in larger. That's why usually when you're buying something, the small package is X price, and then the big one is, X plus 2, and then you're getting more for your money, but then you have to use all of it. So if it's something that doesn't have a long shelf life, you're probably not going to eat it all anyway. So something to consider. Repair instead of replace. We live in a throwaway culture where as soon as something doesn't work, we get rid of it and buy a new one instead of trying to fix it. And I used to be very much of that mindset, but now I invest in things that I really love and I really care about. And if a shirt gets a hole in it, I would much rather sew the hole and fix it rather than just throwing the shirt out altogether. And I think that, I don't have a big wardrobe. You've seen me wear this probably dozens of times. But learning how to repair things is really, really easy. There's actually some places you can take it in. Things like shoes even. There's shoe repair people that when you wear down the bottom of your shoe, usually for a lot of people it's the heel or where the toe pad is, but they will just replace the bottom of the shoe and it's like brand new instead of buying a new shoe or throwing it out altogether, which I think is great because I've got several extra years out of pairs of shoes just for that. All right, what else? Eat less meat and dairy. If you know me, this one's not surprising. Meat is usually packaged in a lot of plastic. Beyond that, the carbon footprint of meat and dairy production is extremely high. It's more than the entire transportation industry, so boats, planes, trains, cars, all of it put together. So the less meat and dairy you eat and the more locally sourced food that you eat, the less the carbon footprint. So something like buying from a local grocer instead of a big box store, or buying from a farmer's market if you can afford it, rather than, going to Walmart and buying food, because you know that their food doesn't travel very far to get where it's going. But there's a couple of places you can even go straight to the farm, to the source of the food, and buy it there. Depending on where you live, obviously, if you live in the city, that's different. But out where I live, there's quite a few farms within 30 minutes of here that have food grown on property. They have pre-prepared food even, soups and stews and pies and all that kind of stuff. And I know that it's not traveling very far, so I don't feel guilty about, once in a while getting some imported fruit, just because I know that most of the food that I buy is locally sourced. Carpooling. Obviously right now this is different. A lot of people are not traveling using public transit. Carpooling is not always a safe option right now, especially if the person you would normally carpool with is not in your quarantine circle. but it does end up helping a lot. And if you're traveling on the 404 or the 401, the 404 has a carpool lane for quite a distance down the 404. So traveling with other people helps. And I've had a conversation with my friend about this, that most people should drive cars instead of bigger vehicles unless, they have a big family or they're carrying lots of stuff back and forth. And while I agree with that, my SUV is for the all the farm roads that I go on. It's for safety because the Volkswagen brand is very secure. The frame is very secure and has saved my life before, so I'm a little biased. But overall, it is bigger than a car, and I know that. And I do think about getting a smaller one sometimes, but I do carry, like right now, especially with my stepdad moving, we have trunks full of stuff, and I can easily transport things back and forth. I've helped people move with my car because it fits more than a regular car, but that's a whole other topic. Composting, a lot of people that are home right now are enjoying the benefits of building their compost and using their food waste and then fertilizing their flowers with it, which I think is really great. It's reusing everything that you've already bought to benefit the new gardens that everybody's building. Thrifting instead of buying new clothes. Over the last couple of years, I've become a big fan of thrifting because I know where all the thrift stores are now, first of all, but I've had very good experiences. Sometimes you go and you don't find anything, but I usually go saying, I'm looking for like a white t-shirt. I still don't own one, by the way, but I go in and I go to their t-shirt section and I look at all the white ones, because the last couple I've been to are called Talese, and one in Kitchener and one in Peterborough, and they sort by color, so it's really easy to find what you're looking for. And I usually get one thing but for those really basic items, it's really nice to have somewhere to go where you know that the clothes are being reused. A lot of them are in quite good shape, so that's something else to consider. Switch to online billing. It's really easy now. It saves a lot of paper, a lot of mailing, and it saves the carbon emissions from the mail delivery car that has to deliver all of the stuff. So the more that you switch to paper billing, the less paper we have going through the mail system, which also speeds along everything else. So something really easy you can do, you can still print them and file them if you're a paper filing type person, or you can download them and save them in a file on your computer, and it just means that there's less paper being mailed. Instead of buying new books, using ebooks, an e-reader, you can use an iPad, you can use borrow books from the library. That's been the last couple of years really, really helpful for me. And the library did close for part of quarantine. I was very sad. So I switched to ebooks for a little while, and then they opened again, and I've been borrowing books from them. It just saves on money, and you get to meet interesting people at the library. That's always fun. But you get to try out different books you may not normally have read, which I find really nice. Cleaning. It's very easy to clean with reusable rags instead of paper towels, and to use eco-friendly products. I know a lot of people that make their own cleaning products, whether that's just hot water and vinegar, or they put an essential oil in it to give it a nice smell or something like that. But we use eco-friendly cleaning products here because Kai spends a lot of time on the floor, and we don't want to be exposed to those chemicals either. I also know a lot of people who make hygiene and beauty products, so things like face scrubs, exfoliant, I don't even know the words, but all of those things, and shampoo, but it's very easy to look up a recipe, try some stuff. It'll save you a lot of money, too, for those that buy a lot of that kind of stuff. I haven't bought, face scrubs and whatever in a really long time, but I have a really easy recipe. It has 2 ingredients in it. I have the ingredients in my cupboard, and if I'm feeling the need to do a face mask or something, it's very easy to do. The last one is recycle, although I know that not a lot of stuff that is made gets recycled. And I watched part of a documentary that said that the myth of recycling was created by companies that produce plastic so that we, the consumer, wouldn't realize that 85% of plastic produced never actually gets recycled. It just stays on the earth forever. But do your best to use products that decompose. There are a lot of them now. There's a lot of companies coming out with not only clothing that decomposes after 50, 60 years, but even like plastic bottles that actually are made of something completely different that decompose. I've seen shoes that are made of pineapple leather that obviously do much better for the planet than regular leather. That's a whole other conversation. But I hope that these give you a couple of ideas for Waste Reduction Week. We are reusing a lot of stuff in our house now that the reno is coming to a close, and finding stuff we didn't know we had, which is really nice because we're going to go buy something and then we realize we already had one downstairs, and that's really helpful. But finding a lot of things that I didn't know that I had is helpful because it reminds me that I actually had more stuff downstairs than I thought I did, so it gives me a chance to sort through that before I go and purchase anything. But I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your week, and I will see you on Friday or Saturday on Instagram for a live video.